You see, back in the day, like I say, we had monsters that were bigger than people. We had monsters that, we had monsters that came out of the water and would grab you and take you. And we had witches, and we had flying heads, and we had the great stone monsters. Now, the great stone monsters, the great stone giants, the great stone creatures, they were scary because the worst thing of all, well, it wasn't only that you couldn't destroy them. They liked a certain kind of food, and I'm sure all of you being students of folklore and reading the newspapers today, you know what they liked to eat most. May I ask you what it was?
Cheese.
What? People! People like you and me. Oh, and the great stone monsters, no one had ever seen them, but they didn't want to. And they were happy they hadn't seen them. So one day, when it was heard that the great stone monsters were marching toward a village, a great council met. What are we going to do? I don't know. What are we going to do? No one's ever been heard of seeing a great stone monster. So, like, how are we going to handle the great stone monsters? I mean, please. I don't want them eating me or my kids or you or your kids. I mean, come on. What are you talking about? What are we going to do? And the conversation went from here to there to here to there. Nobody knew what they would do about the great stone monsters. Until Skunny Wundy stood up. Now, a boy with the name of Skunny Wundy, what kind of kid do you think he was?
Awesome.
Yeah, he was awesome. And you know, how did you know that? That was what they called him way back in the day. Awesome. He was the kind of kid who was awesome, but he liked to tell you how awesome he was. Yeah, I'm Skunny Wundy. I'm special. Hey, I'm Skunny Wundy. Hey, you don't mess with me. I can do anything. I'm not afraid of the witch. And I'm not afraid of the people that come out of the waters. And I'm not afraid of the heads that go without bodies. Though that is kind of weird. But I am not particularly not afraid of the great stone giant monsters. Well, that's what he said every day. Every day you'd see him coming. I'm not afraid of you or this or that or any. I'm not afraid. Because I am, well, who was he?
Skunny Wundy.
Duh. Well, Skunny Wundy was the first person who came to mind. And when he stood up and said, hey, I'm Skunny Wundy and I can handle anything, Skunny Wundy got the job. Now, nobody really knew what he would do because, honestly, he was a kid. He wasn't very old. Now, we all know of kids who tell, it's not like these young ladies over here, who have absolutely proved that they can tell stories. But we all know of people who say they can do things, but we don't see them do it, do we? So when the chance comes up and they actually say they are going to do it, everybody was pretty excited. So a great messenger, a great many messengers were sent to the great stone giant saying, you guys, I would like you to find for yourselves a champion. And we will send our champion, whose name is
Skunny Wundy.
And he will defeat you. Well, the great stone giants didn't believe it at all. But they sent their champion, the biggest of all the big, big bigs. The widest of all the wide, wide, wide. The toughest of all the tough, tough, tough. And he went, that tough one, and stood. Well, I would like to think it's the Delaware River because that's a place that I canoe a lot. And I can imagine on one side the great stone monster. And on the other side, on the New York side, that's the Pennsylvania side, of course. On the New York side, my home state, thank you. On the New York side stood, who was he?
Skunny Wundy.
And Skunny Wundy looked at the great stone giant. He said, hey, great stone giant, I am not afraid of you. And the great stone giant just looked at him and looked at him and laughed a horrible great stone giant laugh, which goes like You couldn't really hear it. It was really loud, and it would break your eardrum, so don't bother. But here's an opportunity to imagine it, okay? Imagine it. No eardrums? Okay. So, Skunny Wundy looked at him and said, okay, you nasty one. You awful one. You think you're tough. I'm Skunny Wundy. You don't know who you're setting up against. Come and get me. Well, the great stone giant, he did what great stone giants always do. He went to get him. And he walked into, perhaps it was the Hudson, who knows, maybe the East River, down where I live. He walked into the water. He walked and walked and walked until the water was over his head. And when he had disappeared, now Skunny Wundy was like one of you girls, and I saw another girl somewhere over there, looked very smart. He was very smart. He was annoying, but he was smart. It's funny how that often goes together. He ran to a part of the river that was very narrow. So narrow that he could actually hop over. So he hopped over and went to where the great stone giant was, and he stood with his hands on his hips waiting. That was considered a very manly stance. If you want to try it, you'll feel very manly along with me. And he waited until the great stone giant came up in the water on the other side. And when the great stone giant looked, like, where is Skunny Wundy? Skunny Wundy calls out, ah, ha, 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 you're afraid of me. You couldn't even go straight through. Why didn't you just come and get me? I thought you were brave. I thought you were strong. I thought you were not afraid of just a boy like me. And the great stone giant, he laughed again, that horrible, we talked about it, right? So you know your eardrums are broken. And he laughed that again, and he went right into the water again. And when it was again over his head, Skunny Wundy ran to the same part of the river that he could. And he did that. But this time, when he went, behind he left his hatchet. And when he got to the other side and stood in the same place where he had been, and when the great stone giant came up and stood exactly where he had been in the very first, the great stone giant looked and looked for Skunny Wundy. And when he couldn't find Skunny Wundy, he turned around, and there was Skunny Wundy, very masculinely, very strongly, and very, very fiercely looking. Great stone giant? You are afraid. Oh, no, don't touch my hatchet. So, of course, what did the great stone giant do? Touched his hatchet. No. Don't lick it. So what do you think the great stone giant did?
Probably licked it.
Duh. No, don't throw it. And the great stone giant, what do you think he did?
Licked it again.
What did he do? He picked it up, and and it went through 30 trees, 30 rocks, 30 bushes. Well, let's throw in 30 flowers, and it landed 30 feet down in the ground. The great stone giant looked at all of that. And he looked at Skunny Wundy, and he started to cry. I won't go into it, it was pretty ugly. You know, he was a great stone giant, all sorts of stuff was coming down off him. But he cried and he cried and he cried. You see, Skunny Wundy, he was very smart. He knew that a bully like a great stone giant or any monster can't stand to be called out and can't stand to be told what to do. So when they said, don't pick it up, he picked it up. When he said, don't lick it, he licked it. And that was where he really forgot. You see, the saliva of a great stone giant is magical. Anything it touches, it makes magical too. He had forgotten that, but Skunny Wundy, who was annoying but very smart, had remembered. And so, in the midst of all his crying, the great stone giant began to crumble and fall apart. And I would like to think today, well, actually the original story says he just turned around and went back. But I would like to think that today, somewhere, possibly along one of those great rivers in great New York State, or possibly even over in that nice little state of we call Pennsylvania, there is a mountain range called the Poconos. And that is where the great stone giant fell apart. And if we ever want to remember what it's like to face a monster, let's remember the Poconos and how important it is to be smart and slightly annoying. Thank you.